This is iFanboy Pick of the Week number 891, brought to you by iFanboy listeners like y'all. My name is Josh Flanagan, and this is my co-host. How have you been, Connor Kilpatrick?
I'm back.
Yeah, that's good because, this probably isn't the place to do it, but I'm fucking sick of working with amateurs. It is so disheartening to come on the show and you're here, you're ready, you've prepared, you've done the work, and you know what? You get nothing.
I was going to say Ryan is getting way too comfortable in my chair 2 weeks in a row. He had his feet up on my desk. His stuff was all over my desk. He had his snacks in my drawers.
Terrible snacks.
His snacks are weird. It's all like figs and
Yeah, you can't trust a man with snacks like that.
Yeah, he had beets somewhere. It was all... I don't want this beet. I threw it in the garbage. So I'm back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Slightly sick, but okay. Because when you have 7 people in one house, a cold is bound to happen.
That's also what happens is you find out when people start being polite and things
It's true.
Start getting real.
It's true.
This is Pick of the Week number 891. We've done 890 of these. This is the 891st. Every week, one of us picks the book they like best from their stack of comics. We call that the Pick of the Week. We will talk about that comic book. We will talk about other comic books. There's a Patron Pick, which is a comic book. We will answer listener mail if we have time. There's usually about comic books.
I prepared no discussion points about comic books, only movie stills.
Well, I mean, that's the wave of the future.
Sure, the money is.
Yeah, but tell you what, the comic people aren't unionized, so they're still making them.
That's true. That's true.
There's a spoiler warning for spoilers that are involved in comic books. Those are plot points and bits that you may not want to know had you not read them, just in case you were curious.
Final page twists.
Now, my friend, you said to me fairly late in the game, listen, pal, I got no clear pick here, but yet here we are.
The pick is the Enfield Gang Massacre #1 from Image Comics. It is a spinoff of That Texas Blood, one of our favorite series. It's fair to say you and I, both of our top 5 series.
Yeah.
Written by Chris Condon, Jacob Phillips is on the art, and artist is by Pip Martin. It's the same team from That Texas Blood. First of all, I keep wanting to call it the Enfield County Massacre, just because there's so many Old West names like that. Second of all, great cover. We talked about covers a few episodes ago and how lame they'd become. This one's great. This one looks like an old pulp cowboy novel. Looks like Elmer Leonard could have written it.
We should probably highlight the fact that there are no good covers, but we always like the ones that are retro and old timey. So maybe we should probably exempt those.
Are we the problem?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, the next comic we're going to talk about also had a great cover. We said back then we were going to start mentioning when the covers were good.
No, it's true. It was a great comic because it told you exactly what it was.
Yes.
I knew exactly what to expect.
We're setting up things here. It starts off in Oklahoma in 1906. It's traveling Wild West show, which was something that happened a lot in that period of time, the post-old Wild West time, which didn't stop in when the clock turned to 1900, it didn't stop. There was still basically old Wild West for about another 20 years at that point. But the peak era is post-Civil War, late 1880s is the time people think of as the Wild West. And so this is about 20 years later. And we have this show where there's old retired Indian chiefs and old gunslingers putting on a show and
corpses
toting around the mummified body of one something Enfield. What is his name? Jacob Enfield? No.
You were going to ask me a question. I was letting you
talk. His name is Enfield. His last name.
Yeah, it is. Head of the gang.
He was the head of the gang of the famous Enfield Gang Massacre. And then we cut back to the past when he's a young man robbing banks and causing mayhem. And first of all, understand, Josh and I are already in the bag for this book. We're in the bag for this book because we love That Texas Blood. We're in the bag for this book because we love Westerns. We're in the bag for this book because we enjoy any kind of genre storytelling that doesn't involve aliens, monsters, zombies.
Gorillas, zombies.
Right, there's no super gorillas in this book. At least not yet.
Fantasy.
And so we were already predisposed to be really excited for this. And it lived up to its excitement level. One of my favorite bits is page 6 when the guy has robbed the bank for the 3rd time that month. And the bank owner's all pissed. He tries to hire him to be security instead of robbing him. And then there's a great 3-panel page where he's like, "Your outlaw days are numbered." Enfield's like, "See you next month." And he goes, "Tarnation." It was just a great pacing of this joke. And Tarnation made me laugh and laugh. And then great low angle shot of the horses running towards us with the guns firing in the air. I know artists hate drawing horses, but Jacob Phillips draws them really well.
Jacob Phillips draws really well.
Yeah.
which is the thing that we can get to. Specifically, those 2 pages about the bank robbery was great because it reminded me of the Warner Brothers cartoons. You know, when like the dog and the cat or whatever check in.
Right.
You know, and they fight and they chase each other all the time. And then at the end of the day, they check out and they're like, see you later, George.
They punch
because
out. Because
the bank guy isn't really scared.
Nah.
He's talking shit to him. He's just like, do we have to keep doing this?
Right.
You know, and it was kind of delightful in its simplicity in that way. I just remember like the whole time I was like, is this really what this is? Because if it is, it's wonderful. Like I was waiting for the twist that they often think that they need to impress me.
Right. We know that they don't need to do that with that Texas Blood. We kept waiting for it. And there was that one storyline that sort of edged towards supernatural with that cult, but never went into the supernatural. Yeah. And so I was pretty confident just knowing these guys that this was not going to do that, because this is taking place in the world of that Texas Blood. It takes place in the county of that Texas Blood in 1875 in Texas. So I was pretty confident that this was not going to go that way when I was reading it.
Yeah, yeah. I went through the whole thing, and one of the thoughts that I was having is that Jacob Phillips is, if you told me this was Sean Phillips, I would say, yeah. And at a certain level, you have to think, boy, should he draw just like his dad?
Right. John Romita Jr. doesn't draw like his dad.
Right. But really, like, if you're going to do it, Sean Phillips is a master. He's a master. He's one of the best, most consistent storytellers. And he's able to do the thing where you draw real people without costumes and you can still tell the difference between them.
Right.
There's a bit here in the beginning where they show the corpse of Enfield, and you flip the page and you see a close-up, which is great comic book storytelling, of Enfield, and somebody yells Enfield just in case you weren't clear.
Montgomery Enfield.
And then I went back and I looked at the face of the corpse and I was like, okay, there's the cheekbone on the left side. Yep. Yeah, that's the same. Oh, there's a scar there. There's a scar there. I mean, great stuff.
Very good. It's very good art.
And then you get to like the town meeting. I had a little trouble with that, but I went back and forth trying to make sure I could tell who was who. That probably could have used an establishing shot or two. But overall, like if you look at the figures and their faces and the posture, combined with what is just excellent, but probably extremely fake dialogue, but I don't care.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like
it's like watching the new Magnificent Seven with Denzel. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, like when in that meeting, when they're all arguing because crime's out of control, the Enfield gang's running the town. The newly appointed sheriff of the county is pretty ineffectual. There's a retired Texas Ranger who they all want to take over, and the design of Texas Rangers, like you immediately know who this guy is.
Yeah,
right.
He's got that slim Raylan Givens kind of.
We've watched enough of these movies and TV shows. Like he's got the handlebar mustache. It's all white because he's old, but he still looks formidable.
As soon as they said Texas Ranger, I was like, well, here's your guy. I know that.
And then, of course, a body stumbles in. He's been shot. And he's like, oh, there's been a murder. And they go, and the bank manager, who we just met before, has not been only been murdered, but he's been like disemboweled.
Yeah.
And so that leads to, of course, the Enfield gang must have done this, even though they've never done anything like this before. And they're just going to go and kill them all. And what was really interesting, I thought, was... So at the end of the issue, there's a fake article, which is something that Condon's done a lot in that Texas Blood. This is from like a Texas Monthly style magazine. And it's about the Enfield Gang Massacre and, separating fact from fiction. I read it and I was like, this really gives away a lot of what's about to happen.
I kind of skimmed it. I just wanted to know if it was based on something real. And I was
No, it's not. It's not. And so there's a guy, John Mowbray, who's showcased in the article, who has briefly one line in one panel in the issue. Mm-hmm. And according to the article, he's the real bad guy. So it was just interesting that they told the story and then they went in this other, not media, but kind of, and then told you more about the story that it presumably will be revealed later on. But it was what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It was really what I wanted it to be.
I finished it. I think this was the last book I read for no reason, because I had known it was going to be the patron pick. I think that I was looking forward to it. And
Spoilers.
So I wanted to make sure that beat me. Sorry. Also, if you read the show notes.
That's true.
And I wanted to make sure there's a part where I'm reading comics and I'm just flying through them, and I've got to get them done or whatever. And sometimes there's a book where I was like, I don't want that. I want to read it. And so I made sure that I had time to do that.
You want to luxuriate in it.
And I want to be able to think about it, as opposed to sometimes I skip through things, not on purpose, but I just a little on autopilot. And but I also always prepare myself to be disappointed, because if something looks and seems too good to be true, then I don't want to be disappointed. So I sort of slow roll
Little
it.
Josh can't get his heart broke again.
Well, yeah. You guys don't want me to quit, right? This is why we do this.
I don't want you to quit. I can't do this by myself.
Anyway, you kind of
Ryan's already on my shit list.
Don't fucking get me started again. Do you know what you know what? That's not the place.
He had beats, Josh.
Anyway, point is, like, I got to the end of it, and through the whole thing, my happiness for it kept going up because I was like, this is exactly what I want it to be.
Yes.
And it's delivering. And the other thing I kept thinking was, I was like, Chris Condon hasn't been around that long, but he's clearly getting better. And I'm not saying that
in his essay, because there's the article and there's the essay. He says, we're basically new here.
Yeah. Yeah. He talked in a way that to me felt very transparent and very sincere. And I liked that. Yeah. It delivered, and it was really edifying, I think, in that way.
It was also slightly oversized, and that was the theme this week, where I felt like every book I read was just either slightly or very oversized.
It's so weird. They're all like, we got to cut the pages down. All right, we're going to have a little, like, everything on extra pages.
Well, the next one is The Amazing Spider-Man 925 or 31. And this was a 80-page issue or so. It's hard to tell digitally.
I almost warned you.
First of all, another great cover. Incredible internal framing with all the guns in a circle around the main characters. Dialogue balloons on the cover. Special wedding issue. Plus more heart and surprises than you can handle. I loved everything about this cover. It's great.
I just looked at the annual instead by accident, so I'm with you.
Now, I thought about this one as the pick of the week, because I really did like it overall, but some of the things I didn't love about the main story, and then I thought the backup stories, which was half the comic, were really hit and miss. So at the end of the day, I was like, there's too many negatives that piled into this one.
I finished the main story, and I thought, oh, okay, that's good. I'm good here.
Yeah, it was good.
And then you flip it, and Nick Lowe is writing the essay, which fucking essay. That's by the way, that's how Stan Lee got his start, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he did. He had to fill in the text
Stan's
page.
soapbox.
Well, no. He wrote like the weird short story. He wrote a Captain America one,
yeah.
and he'd do whatever to fill it in. And that's what this is. This is that version of that. Instead of Stan's soapbox in the middle, they just write another page of text somewhere.
Right.
The author doesn't want to do it because you don't want to pay him, so the editor does it because it's on the house. It said, "Oh, there's more," and I was like, crap. And I look, and it was like 86 pages. But I kind of didn't mind. I read through the stories. I don't think I love them, but I enjoyed it.
I didn't mind the length. I thought about half the stories were fun and half are kind of annoying, but we'll get to that. So the main story is the wedding of Peter's best buddy, Robbie Robertson, to his fiancée, the daughter of Tombstone. Mm-hmm. That's who it is, right? Is it Tombstone?
Yep.
I love a wedding. I love a comic wedding. Something's going to go wrong. That's the hallmark of a comic wedding.
I loved that it was ridiculous in that, like, he invited all the other bad guys. I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. This isn't going to end well. Let's do it.
Yeah, and that stuff was all great. Now, what I didn't love was two things, the two breakups. So number one, they have Peter and Felicia break up for no apparent reason whatsoever. At the bachelorette party, it's all the supervillains because the daughter's a supervillain. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, you've got a good guy. He must be constantly trying to, stop you from being bad. And she goes, no, he hasn't tried to do that. Well, you must be trying to corrupt him. Well, no, actually, I haven't been trying to do that either. And so then they break up. I was like, wait, you've been a superhero. You've been basically fighting with the Avengers. You've been teaming up with Mary Jane to have adventures in hell. Like, you're not the Felicia from 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. This makes sense for that Felicia. The current Felicia, this came out of nowhere. It just seemed like an excuse to break them up again. And it's just like, break them up, fine. At least give me a valid and believable reason for them to break up. Yeah,
but at the same time, like, sure, whatever. Get her off the table.
I'm happy to break them up. I'm just saying, give me a reason to.
You want them to work
the reason
harder.
they chose to break them up made no sense within the context of the characters who've been written for the last couple of years. And then the main couple break up at the end of the wedding when it all goes badly, and I couldn't figure out why that was at all.
Well, they didn't really break up, but they definitely alluded to it, where like he's like, we got to go. And he looks over at her. And I thought that was kind of lame because it's not like they didn't know what was going on.
The implication is, I'm not ready to get involved in this whole supervillain mess, but it's not like he didn't know she was a supervillain. Like they got this
thought of that before.
Right.
Yeah.
However,
I
those two things apart, I thought the wedding was super fun. I love the two wedding parties. His regular side and her side was all super villains. How they meshed together.
And then Peter being the usher and like they don't know who he is, but he
Right.
knows who they are, and that sort of fun bit.
And then there's an interesting twist with Tombstone, who gets shot by this guy who crashed the wedding, and Tombstone, who was bulletproof, is now bleeding. So like there's a lot of fun, interesting things happening here. Good Spider-Man action.
I really like the first scene where he's like, "You all have to go to the wedding." And I was like, "Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Because if you're not there, I'm going to be suspicious." And I was like, "Sure, that makes a lot of sense."
Listen, they were all at Don Corleone's daughter's wedding.
It's true, you had to do that because you have to show respect. But there's that sort of ever-looming threat all the time. The White Rabbit character, she's great. She's such a wild card. Like, it's ridiculous.
She's basically Harley Quinn.
I know, but
no,
actually,
it's not a criticism. I'm saying that's her character.
Yeah, but she's got sort of a different deal going on, and I like how she bounces off the other characters. Like, she's a threat, but you don't really know why.
Right.
Like she's like she has power. They are intimidated by her. Why? I don't know. Like, she wears the hat, the ears. Okay, fine.
All right, let's look at the backup. So
Yeah.
The Peter Kamala one I liked.
Bit of an explanation.
Kamala. Damn you, Mrs. Vice President. You screwed it up for
gotta
everybody.
Be careful.
I really liked the joke about the X-Men, how they kept using the logo. He's like, stop saying it like that.
Right.
I thought that was fun. I liked that whole sequence. He reveals his identity to her. She freaks out because she knew him. Like, I thought that was a good story.
Who drew that one?
I don't know who drew it, but it was very good.
It was.
Doc Ock at the bar with no name.
Eh.
It was fine. It was just 3 pages.
He's going to go back to Superior Spider-Man. Great.
Really, really hate making Mary Jane a superhero. And so the third story was all about the fallout from their adventure where her fake kids got zapped back or disappeared. They weren't real in the first place. And
they Wanda Maximoffed.
There's a growing space between her and her husband or boyfriend or whatever they are.
You know what's worse than Mary Jane as a superhero?
What?
Sad Mary Jane in her apartment with this dude who we don't care about.
Right. I think they forget sometimes that she's a supermodel / internationally famous actress.
Yeah. Well, she's what you needed her to be for the story. Boy, they really took liberties with Black Cat's hair here and her age.
So Black Cat gives her a superhero costume, and she's now called Jackpot, and I think it's terrible. I really do.
Whatever.
I don't want Lois Lane to be a superhero, and I don't want Mary Jane to be a superhero. Right. It's okay to not be a superhero. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's something that the CW shows fell into the trap of after they got through like 6 or 7 seasons. It was like, no, let's just give everybody superpowers. It's like, well, what? Like, it's okay. It's okay that the supporting characters are supporting characters. It's okay that they are not superheroes too. I don't need Mary Jane running around being a superhero.
All right, moving along here. We got
Spider-Woman at the bar with no name fighting Taskmaster. You can talk about this one.
Yeah.
They seem to have done away with her kid.
Yeah. The kid disappeared, whatever. Well, she's like, we find out why she's so angry. I honestly don't remember if that happened before or when or what.
Well, we didn't read these books. This happened in that
Spider-Verse
thing we didn't read.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I was like, why is she acting like this? She's like, where's my kid? I was like, awesome. I buy that. She's a good time lady, but she's a, mother, and she's got an anger streak. I liked great Taskmaster.
Yep.
Like, he looked like the Taskmaster was supposed to. Great costume. He's one of those, multi-tools. Like, he can be what you need him to be in the story. And so what he was in this was good. I didn't understand the other one about the animal things at all, and I didn't really pay attention.
Most of these stories were leading into another book.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Spider-Woman story was leading to Spider-Woman #1.
Right.
And then this animal story was leading into Spider-Boy #1. Character I don't know anything or care about, so I didn't care about that story.
Right.
Now, I tended to enjoy more of the other ones, like the next one, The Case of Perry Thomas, which is just a short story.
Lovely.
About a guy obsessed with getting rescued by superheroes. I thought that was really fun. The art was nice. I thought it really worked. I think I skipped that double-page cartoony one.
Yep.
I think I skipped the Craven one. I skipped the Craven one, ironically, which is tying into the next issue of Spider-Man. But I did skip it.
Well, he sleeps with the Red Goblin lady from that other story who I don't quite remember.
I got the gist from just reading the art. I didn't read the dialogue. And then there was a post-credits
Spider-Man
about
Reign.
that Spider-Man Reign story I never read in the first place.
I think I did.
Kara Andrews is terrific.
Kara Andrews is a complete genius, but he can swing one way or the other sometimes. So I don't remember that being great. At first,
I got really confused because there was a reference to Kingpin earlier in the issue.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, you guys, Kingpin is with the X-Men. He's the new White King. Like, he can't be here.
Wait.
He didn't show up. But then he shows up here, and I was like, oh, no. They really fucked up the continuity. And then I realized, oh, no, it's out of continuity. It doesn't matter.
So this is going to be a Bush League question.
Mm-hmm.
And we may have talked about it recently, but is he supposed to be a mutant?
Kingpin, no.
Well, how does he get to be
He's the husband of a mutant.
That counts?
Listen, all the rules are out the window. They got attacked. You were there. It's all ad hoc.
You should have to convert. That's all I'm saying.
I think to obtain the title of White King, you should be a mutant. But listen, no one asked me. Danger Street Book 8, also a great cover.
Yeah.
3 good covers in a row.
I'm interested that you put this on here.
It was my favorite issue
Okay.
of this series because I feel like I've got a handle on the characters now, even if, much like Love Everlasting, I'm not sure what the overall deal is. However, we got the origin story of the kids who are all like supervillains.
Mm-hmm.
They got this wish granted to them when they were young. And then the other kids who didn't get the wish turned into these monsters who we see on the cover who have been in the issue. I really liked the date between Lady Cop and a Creeper. The date that wasn't a date.
But it was a date.
Yeah. I thought the stuff with Warlord and Starman was good. Like, I just thought everything character-wise was terrific, even though we're now at issue 8 of 12, and I'm like, I still don't know what's going on, although I'm looking forward to this sword fight confrontation between Codename Assassin and Manhunter.
I think that the thing I would say about this is that I think almost every scene is pretty good.
Yeah.
And pretty interesting. I think the dialogue is a little, but tying it all to, like, it's all seems very far apart, even within their own stories. So, we're however many issues. I don't know who this Warlock dude is. Is it Warlock or no?
Warlord.
Warlord.
He was a Mike Grell character in the 80s.
Yeah, no, I know, but I don't really know him at all. I know Michael, the Starman from Starman.
Right.
I'm getting an idea. I think the kids are funny with their nicknames and grapes and whatnot.
Right.
It's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm actually really cool with that. The sort of the utter and complete confidence they have and disrespect for authority is really wonderful. Like it's just like they are full. They do not give a fuck about anybody or anything. There's 2 sets of kids in this, right? And they're both precocious, but in different ways. Yeah, it's fun.
WildC.A.T.S. You love you some WildC.A.T.S.
I try to quit you, baby, but I can't. I'm reading WildC.A.T.S. and 10 issues in, and I've pretty much, you know what? No, I was going to say I have a handle on what's going on. I have no idea, really. Like, there's the factors of who everybody isn't super clear. Like, they don't use the words Daemonites and Cherubim very much. And there's a bunch of characters here who I don't really know from the WildC.A.T.S I've read. I recognize the images and the drawings and things like that. But what I think I decided through this issue is that it doesn't matter. And what this is, to my mind, is a modernized interpretation of what those 90s comics were like.
Okay.
Which was wall-to-wall action. 2 people see each other, they fight, then they stay enemies or they don't, and then they fight some more. There's 1,000 things going on, and that's what it looks and feels like. You've got Steven Segovia and Tom Derenek. I couldn't tell you who did what. I know there's pages that look different from other pages, but they look exactly like they're supposed to.
Right.
There's these constant fights. Everybody does have their own personality, and some of them I know and some I don't. I know Grifter. I know Maxine Manchester. I know Zealot. I know, what's her name? The Pris, I think is her name. I can't think of I know their real names sometimes. Anyway, and
the one who was Psylocke?
Yeah, the one who was the stripper. Yeah. And, the Batman's in this, and there's actually like a scene where Batman and Arsenal, or is she Speedy now? And some other character, some female, who would be a female. It's Mockingbird?
Not Mockingbird, Black Canary.
Every time. Kamala
Khan, Vice President of the United States.
I knew it wasn't right when I said it, but it's the exact same character. Not really. The whole time I'm grasping at what is going on, and I'm like, I feel like, and I can be making a stretch here. I feel like it's on purpose. And I think also I had mentioned to you earlier, like Matt Rosenberg, like, he's too good to, like, he's not lost here. Like, if you're confused, it's either your fault or on purpose.
Right. And he must really love the characters.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he must really love that stuff. He's our age, so it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does. And like the dialogue in here is fantastic. It treads this line between being really snappy and modern, but also being a little comic book goofy. I think that is totally perfect. And so after I spent a little time wondering, like, is this any good? I was like, I don't care. Like, it is experiential more than it is narrative. There's constant like, oh wait, who's he with? I thought he was with us and he's not. And you're fighting and now I'm in your body. Fuck it. Just let it go. Let it roll. His bright colors, and it's ridiculous. And DC superheroes in there, fine, whatever. I don't care. How does Batman feel about Grifter? That's interesting. Let's find out. How does Grifter feel about Batman?
God, they've been trying to make that a thing for so long.
Yeah, but whatever. Maybe nobody else can make this work, but I think that Rosenberg, and part of it, like, I'm a fan, so it's not hard to trust him, or just to, like, at least I know what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes a book gets optioned to Netflix, and they make a cartoon out of it, and so they make more books. And this week, we had Mech Cadets, #1 from Boom Studios, by Greg Pak and Takeshi Miyazawa, the team behind Mech Cadet U, a book we loved, or at least Ron and I did when it came out.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, it was a while back.
Did they create the thing that became the show?
It, in fact, premiered this week on Netflix.
Oh, but it's Greg Pak's show?
Yeah, this is based on his comic.
That's cool. I wasn't sure if he just did the adaptation, but that's good.
No, the book was original. It was years and years and years ago. And so this is now, capitalizing on that, calling it Mech Cadets, which I believe is the name of the show as well. It's basically the same as the first time around. It's a bunch of kids who are psychically and emotionally, and I'm trying to remember because it was a long time ago, and they didn't really help you here. Like, there was no recap. This was like, we hope you remember what happened 8 years ago. A bunch of kids who are sort of bound to these, mech robots who protect Earth from alien invasion. That's basically the premise, and that's basically what happened here. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's a little on the all ages scale, a little lower than some of the other stuff we read, but I love Takeshi Miyazawa's art, and Greg Pak writes fun characters and action. I think the first issue of the original was Pick of the Week. Ron and I really enjoyed that book.
I have the vaguest recollection.
I think it was like 2015, I want to say, which would have been 8 years ago. Oh, mama.
I looked at this one and I saw Greg Pak and I was like, okay, that's all right. And then I saw it was some tie-in, and that was as far as I went. And I was like, nah, it's a video game tie-in.
Yeah, it's not a tie-in. I
know. I'm not saying I'm right.
I guess it is a tie-in technically. So this was Mech Cadet U was 2017. Ooh, boy. That was a long time ago. So anyway, this was fun. If you enjoyed the first one, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one as well. But, it's here because of the cartoon. Superman 2023 annual. Did you read this? Josh Williamson wrote it?
Yes, I did.
I thought this was fun. This was another oversized comic.
It's really funny because you said that, and I was like, yes, I did read it. And I was like, Josh, you don't remember a single thing about it, do you? So now I'm going to look at it. It will come back to me as soon as I do read it. This was a story that
it's led by Lois. She's currently interim editor-in-chief, and she realizes the paper's getting stale. So she calls all of her lead writers into her office, and we get introduced to all of them, what their beats are. This writer does crime, this writer does fashion, this writer does gossip, this writer does sports. And she basically mixes them all up and says, okay, Steve Lombard, the sports writer, you're going to go to the prison and interview this person. And okay, Gossip Queen, you're going to go do, so she basically switches all their beats up, which is a fun little thing. And we follow them around on some of the more, important ones. And I thought it was a fun, little, nice. Annuals are so weird. Mm-hmm. They don't serve a purpose anymore. But
you know what?
Tell a side story. That's fine.
I think that I actually had a thought about the annuals here, is that the Superman annual that was here, I thought, oh, this is just like a thing. It sort of can exist on its own, and it's got its a great sort of bunch of artists doing a thing. There's a funny story. Also, I've never been so creeped out by Parasite in my life.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I can hear everyone rolling their eyes already. I like the old Parasite better.
Listen, I'm not complaining about it. Like, it worked. I was like having him work at the place and have like a shirt on and look completely terrifying, and then succor the is it give succor to? That's not a verb, right?
You give succor
to the tiny sort of offshoot of himself. Like, it was funny and creepy, and I was down for it, and it was great. I thought, what's his name? Not Steve Trevor, the
Steve Lombard
guy. Steve Lombard. He should be around more, just being a lunk.
He is a relic of the past, and he loves it.
And I'm fine with it. It's fun a little bit, sort of here and there. But what I was noticing is, so these were like, this was like kind of an outside story. And then I noticed that over in the Spider-Man annual, it seems like there's going to be a story that's going through all the Marvel annuals. Right. And I thought, oh, that's how it used to be. Yes. I don't want to read this, but I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah, I like this one. I mean, this one, I think I picked up because it said like, sowing the seeds for the next year of Superman. So so we get a tease about Lobo, which And then we get a thing with Brainiac involved with Lobo, and then there's a bit with, Mercy and Parasite. So I thought there was enough here that was tied in. And there's also this character who was this Knight Rider character, this black woman who was also a savior of Metropolis, and she's getting her own miniseries.
Whatever. Let it rip.
Yeah, no, so I'm just saying this was like they weaved in stuff they're going to be playing with later on, and it was fine. I enjoyed it.
That's an annual. That's about right. It's better than a stupid Zero issue. I don't think we do those anymore. Barnstormers number 2. I wanted to. It was the pick of the week last time I was around, and I feel like that was 2 weeks ago.
I do feel like that, and this is because the book's already out, so they can just pump them out,
which is fine. Point being, I love this. I didn't want it to end. I knew it was going to be long going in, and I was wrapped. I think
it's interesting the way they're doing it is it was clearly 6 issues on Comixology, and they're putting out 2 at a time. So the next issue is the final one, issue 3.
It's fine.
And it's just interesting the way they're doing it. Instead of spreading it out, they're condensing it. But it gives you a big meaty story, though.
I mean, maybe they're spending less on, like, they're not giving them a page rate or whatever, so they can sort of change the economics around a little bit. And I like as a format, it's sort of golden age format. It's just like 2 big stories in an issue. And either way, like, I was even more impressed by it than the last one, just in the way it looked and read. It's wonderful work.
Yeah, we got insight into the main character's psyche. We know now that it's not a supernatural thing. He sees this electricity creature. It's this PTSD thing. Like, I thought it was all very well done. Mm-hmm. There's, there was only, I thought there was a couple of things that got tripped up on the art in terms of storytelling. Like, they have the shootout in the restaurant. And apparently the shootout caused the cooking oil to explode and kill everybody. And that was not shown at all on the page.
It kind of was. Like, and they it seemed like when they were narrating of it, they spoke about it as a hypothetical, but it was actually the thing that happened. I had to go back and look, and I was like, okay, that's what you're saying happened.
They should have, in the next page when they're running to the plane to escape, the guy and the girl, Gary Cooper and Hedy Lamarr, we should see the fire. We should see what they're looking at. That was my only really complaint.
I feel like, I don't know. I don't disagree with you, but I feel like this must have been a choice for a reason. I don't know that I know what it is, which, again, doesn't make it the right choice, but I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, though. I saw last week you guys talked about X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So this week I saw Immortal X-Men 14 was out, and I had read it in the very beginning, got kind of really bored with it because it was focusing on all the characters I didn't care about, like the guy who's not Mr. Sinister but looks like Mr. Sinister and Orcus. All the characters that ended up being important for the X-Men thing. So I thought, okay, I'll jump back on as the post, big X-Men event. I thought it was really fun. It's Kieran Gillen and Lucas Wernick on art, and this was all about the fallout of the attack on the X-Men, focusing a lot on Black Tom Cassidy and Professor Xavier. We learned that all those X-Men that went through the gate weren't spaced. They were sent to some desert somewhere in space and time. We don't know where they are, but they're all stranded in the desert. I think that's a mistake. I think the really ballsy thing is to kill off all of them and really grind the X-Men down to a recognizable core. Like, if I was in charge, the only X-Men still alive would be the ones that anyone who's ever read an X-Men comic would know who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a handful of new ones, but anyone who read a comic in the 80s when the X-Men were the hottest thing in the world would know who they were looking at. That's what I would do, but I'm not in charge. But this was good. This was also fun. Listen, they did a really interesting and fun thing with the X-Men, and I'm into it for now.
I agree. I didn't read this because I kind of looked at it and I was like, I don't know what this is.
You didn't need to, but it was fun if you liked this.
Right. I think it was the thing where, like, I am just looking for the characters I know, because that is really the way that I get in, I guess. Because there's too many. I don't care. I have no connection to the dozens of other characters. And it's not that they're bad. It's just that who's got time, to sort of spend a lot of time trying to learn about characters you don't know or care about.
Tear them down.
Yeah. Well, that's what Orcus is trying to do.
I know. I'm on Orcus' side. Swan Songs, number 2.
Yeah. So this is W. Maxwell Prince.
Mm-hmm.
It's another anthology miniseries based on a theme. Whereas the haha was based on clown themes. This is based upon the idea of endings can be of anything. This one was about the end of a relationship, and it was a ridiculous short story concept based on the fact that this couple divorced, and the terms of divorce was that they had to fight each other, Mortal Kombat style, for eternity every day.
And throughout time, and like there's samurai in one, they're like knights in another, they're Jack Kirby superheroes in another one.
And I thought that this was delightful.
It was very good.
Because it seemed kind of ridiculous, but then it would spend a lot of time talking to you about relationships and how it forms in the beginning. Like I don't know this guy, but I was like, I feel like he's working something out here.
Well, maybe, you never know. But I mean, they're pretty universal. It's how you get together in the beginning. It's all exciting and fun and sex and then
either way, if you've been through it, you think about it, and
right.
he's illustrating this in a way that I have never seen. And there's a little bit in the end where they do care about each other, like they hate each other, but then they do care about each other a little bit. It was great. I know the rest of the series is going to be super fun, even if everything isn't perfect or doesn't succeed. It's going to be interesting and it's going to be well done.
Yeah, I thought this was good. I thought this was very good.
Absolutely.
So those are the books we wanted to talk about. But at patreon.com/iFanboy, all of the patrons of the show get to vote to add a book to the rundown. And this week, by a 2-1 margin over the second place book, the Enfield Gang Massacre #1, as Josh said, was the patron pick. So we've already talked about it. Ratings, Josh, ratings on the Enfield Gang Massacre.
It would have been my pick of the week. When I finished it, I was like, this is my pick of the week. 4.5.
That's tough because I want to say 4.5, but I also want to stick to my guns about the pick of the week being a 5-star book. So I've hoisted myself in my own petard.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
See, when you live by the code, you got to die by the code. So 5 stars.
It's a 4.5-star book.
Sticking with it?
Yeah, absolutely. No question.
Of course we are. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Any patron can vote to the book of the rundown, but at the $5 or higher level, you get a superpower live on the show. Like James Darling, he can pick up any object, Josh, regardless of its weight, heft, mass, and throw it as if it's a baseball.
Oh, the perfect size and weight to throw.
Right. So, like, for instance, if he was walking and there was a leaf on the ground, he could pick up that leaf and toss it as if it were a baseball. Not, in real life, you toss a leaf, it probably spins about 2 feet in front of you and lands right back where you picked it up from.
Does he have any skill as a fielder, for example?
Well, he doesn't need to field the leaf. He just needs to throw the leaf.
I get it, but does he throw like me? Or perhaps a person who played baseball for some time.
Right. He throws well.
Okay.
He throws well.
He's not a pro, but he could play like at the office softball league. He'd
sure,
be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And he could be throwing a Sharpie like that or, a piece of foam. Anything, it doesn't matter what the weight of the object is.
Have you thought of practical applications for this? Either day-to-day life or crime fighting?
I've got this tree in the backyard.
I'm listening.
It's a neighbor's tree. It's on the other side of the fence. And it's constantly dropping leaves on my side. And I'm constantly tossing them back over the fence. Don't tell anybody that. Back to your home.
It's not yours.
I wish I could just toss them over the fence like a baseball. I'm constantly trying to throw them and they're constantly blowing back in the wind. So he could clean up real well.
But wouldn't it be a lot harder to throw the leaves over if each one?
No, not at all. He throws the object. It's not like the object itself changes weight. But when he throws it, it moves with the mass of a baseball.
So then does it hit something with the mass of a baseball? So say for example,
no.
Now I can throw I can throw a baseball at a window, but if I threw that leaf at the window, it would hit it with the weight of the leaf. It won't break the
window.
Okay.
It'll only move like it's a baseball, but it still retains. It's magic, Josh. It doesn't make sense.
Wait, we're calling this magic?
It's magic.
This isn't a mutant power or sort of meta.
It's magic.
Fucking A.
Magic.
All right.
James, you're magic. James Magic Darling. Thanks for being a patron. Patreon.com/iFanboy. You can sign up today for $5 or higher. You can get your own superpower live on the show. What else can they do, Josh?
Well, folks, they can directly support the show by going to patreon.com/iFanboy. They did unlock shows for everybody. Are there other shows that could be unlocked?
No, and technically speaking, we got rid of that feature. So technically speaking, we shouldn't be doing any of those other shows, but we like them, so we keep doing them.
Yeah, that's true. We're doing it because we like them. But to be fair,
say goodbye to me painting miniatures live on the internet because that's gone.
I don't owe you anything. Nope. Is what you're saying.
I owe you nothing.
That's helpful. Like just because they reach that level once doesn't mean that I have to do it for the rest of my life.
I mean, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. There's tier exclusive merch. Depending on your level of support, after 3 months, you will receive a Junior Jamoke t-shirt or tote bag or hoodie.
By the way, those have started to arrive.
Nice.
For people who signed up immediately. So we had some people on Discord post some photos. Right. So if you signed up early, you should be getting your merch.
It's the item at your level. It's It's not a collection of items up to and
No,
including
someone did
that
ask.
level.
We don't. If you sign up for the T-shirt level, you don't get all the items up to T-shirt. You just get the T-shirt. If you want the other items, you got to change your level to those levels.
Or can you buy the item? No, you can't.
No, it's only you can't buy it. Only
That's interesting. There could be somebody could really yoke the numbers up and down trying to catch them all like
Pokemon.
like a poker man. That's what I say to bother my kids. I go, yeah, it's that poker man.
Oh my God, you're such a dad.
I am. I've been at this for over a decade. Anyway, there's a $5 higher level. You get the patron power, which is there's a lot of those. You got access to the Discord server at the $10 level. You get the ad-free feed of this show, which is the thing I forgot I had to do anything about, but it got taken care of. Find out more details at patreon.com/iFanboy. Keep going. iFanboy.threadless.com. There is our shirt, iFanboy Pride. Half of all those proceeds go to the It Gets Predator product. How many months after Pride should we mention this? But if it's still doing good, should we keep mentioning it? These are rhetorical questions because I just mentioned it. There are 13 total designs you can put on t-shirts and more quality CCS skateboard decks.
Sure.
And you want to pay attention to the width because if you're a heavier gent or bigger feet, you want a wider board. The small one's going to feel a little squirrely, is what I'm saying.
Have you started wearing New Balance shoes yet?
I think that you know that is not the case, sir. Although my sneaker friend, the way he got me talking about sneakers and therefore buying sneakers is that we would constantly make jokes about seeing like dudes in those white New Balance. It was a thing.
Listen, they're comfortable. I'm not going to knock that. I own a pair for the gym, but
there's different kinds of New Balance. There's a specific one that's the dad one, and then
it's the mom jeans of the dad. It's I've given up.
He doesn't give up. He never cared. He's like, good. This is the right thing now, and there's a quiet dignity about that.
Okay, you respect it.
I do. There's also the Nike Monarch, which is the Nike equivalent of it, which is ironically somewhat popular with hip young kids.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. You can go to ifanboy.com/Amazon.
Suburban Dad Core.
Yeah, exactly. There's links to buy the books in the Booksplode and other places where there's books. We have a partnership with bookshop.org. There will be links where available. And what that does is it makes sure that you're ordering your books from local bookstores so you can help support them no matter where you are.
Hey, we have some time.
Yeah?
I think. I don't know. We fucked around so much. The clock is off.
Really looks like we have time, though.
I think we do.
We can eat all of it up.
Emails. I just scrolled away from the emails. Why did I do that? Here we go. Aaron B. in the audience question says, the other day I was feeling a bit crabby about my comic reading of late. I'm 40, if that explains it. And I got to thinking about our comic ages. Not the traditionally defined golden age or silver age, but your specific individual golden or silver age. For instance, I feel like I can break my comics reading to distinct eras. My golden age starts when I read my first comic in 1991, Avengers Spotlight 22 featuring the late Clint Barton, and extends for 6 pivotal years when I learned what comics were, read anything I could get my hands on, mostly cast off from my older brother, and especially in love with Silver Age reprints and comics based on the animated shows, especially Mike Parabek's Batman. It ends in 1997 when Grant Morrison's JLA came out and my reading totally changed. So, do you have distinct eras in your comic reading? Can you define the end of your personal golden age? It doesn't even have to be that nomenclature necessarily. That's just dork shorthand, I guess. First of all, it is dork shorthand, and we will be using it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to leg up on you, Josh, because I know this email is coming, so I have an answer for this. But if you want to go, it's up to you.
I mean, mine's very easy, actually, because my comic reading was segmented. I started reading comics around the time that I was 11 or 12. I read them for, I don't know, like I want to say it felt like 2 or 3 years, but I think it may have been less. But as I am wont to do...
So your golden age is short.
Yeah, but it's very specific. It's basically everything from the beginning or a little ways into the McFarlane Spider-Man era to the beginning of Image. I was out by the time Image went.
Okay, so you're like late 80s to early 90s.
88 to 90, more or less.
When did Image start? 93?
In that, I mean, basically, I was there when Jim Lee... I have Jim Lee's first issue of the Uncanny X-Men. I bought
92. So you went to 92.
Okay.
Ish.
I guess it was a little longer, but like I dove in full. Like right. I have a bunch of trades that I was like, okay, we're going to read Dark Knight Returns. We're going to have Watchmen. We're going to go and get like a bunch of, things and try to understand it and go backwards. Like I knew that stuff. So when I came back to comics, I really just missed the Image boom and crash, which
I mean, you missed some good things in there too, but yes, you did miss
yes, but largely that's fine.
You also came back via Grant Morrison's JLA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you really skipped 5 years. You pieced out in 92 and you came back around 90. Well, you really came back around 98, I think.
I think by the time I got to high school, I feel like I was out about 6 years. That X-Men, no, I'm saying Uncanny X-Men. It's the first Jubilee. X-Men, I want to say 244.
That's when you started?
That's probably nearest the end.
Near the end?
Near the end of my time reading.
X-Men. Wow. First of all, would anyone have guessed that you would have pulled Jubilee's first appearance exactly out of your head? You were exactly right, 244.
Huh?
That was incredible.
How about that?
I'm impressed.
Thank you. Thank
that
you.
was 1989.
And that was Mark Silvestri, not Jim Lee.
Incredible, Josh.
Thank you.
You would have given Ron a heart attack. We would have had to deal with the death on the show.
So yeah, 89 and 90, I was doing, John Byrne. I was very aware who John Byrne was. West Coast Avengers. I'm trying to think of who was on Avengers at the time. But I read all of the main Marvel series for sure.
That was what, Roger Stern and John Buscema of the Avengers?
Oof, I don't know if it was Buscema at the time. I remember
or Sal Buscema. Sal Buscema.
There you go. Yep. Captain America was one of my favorite at the time. That was Grunwald and Kieran Dwyer.
Yep.
And I still love Kieran Dwyer's art. It's funny because all the art that I loved then, I really still like now. There's certain stylistic things that I'm still into. John Romita Jr. was on Thor.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's really easy for me to say that's my golden age. That's where I was formed.
And so then your silver age is 97-ish to what? 2000?
Basically, I would say when the Architects thing became a thing, like, so that's 4, 5. So it's like almost like around the time of not Secret Invasion, but like Civil War.
2000.
I feel like that is my silver age. Because that's kind of, I don't know. Is it from the time that we started doing the podcast?
Podcast was 2005.
Yeah, it's like mid.
Civil War 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying about 10 years? Almost 10 years?
If you think about the beginning of that period when we started reading was when you started to meet Bendis and Brubaker and Rucka and a little later Aaron Kirkman. That's my silver age. I came of age with those creators in my comic book reading, and and then sort of as that next group of people starts to come in, your Remenders, your Kieran Gillen, folks like that, some have come and gone. I feel like that's when it sort of got into what my modern age is.
All right.
I don't know. I feel like there's maybe 4 ages. Go ahead.
Hey, there can be as many. There was gold, silver, bronze, modern. So you could have,
maybe that's maybe that was my bronze.
We really have never established anything beyond 86. We stopped naming ages in 86.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's been a bunch in our time as iFanboy. I think, like not the early one, but the second one, the creative image boom. Mm-hmm. And then the post MCU, basically big change happens in comics. I think the down to 20 pages, corporate synergy,
2010-ish.
Yeah.
Mine are more expansive, I think. And it's based more on my experience reading comics. So my golden age starts, I'm going to guess around 1980. I don't have a date because I just always had comics around. So I'm just going to pick a year, say 1980. Mm-hmm. And it goes until 1991. So in that period of time, I was just reading comics. Like, they were there. I had them in my house, and I read them over and over. Occasionally, my dad would take me to the comic store, and I'd buy some new ones. I would buy them at the various newsstands around New York City. At some point in there, I got the Dark Knight Returns trade, even though I was way too young, and I read that 1,000 times. That was more like comics as a casual thing I loved. I read them all the time. I read them until late at night in the summer times, but they were not something I sought out. It was not like a subculture I was entered into.
It was not the basis of your identity.
They were just there. Like, I didn't look all right, I'll explain the Silver Age. The difference will make sense. So
I think I understand.
91 was the first year me and my buddy Patrick went to West Side Comics on 86th Street between Amsterdam and Columbus and started a pull list. And I started going to the store every week. And that was the year I started reading comics new as they came out. So instead of reading random comics that I had in my box at home, and by box I mean a big gray box. I mean, like,
that's interesting because that means that I was ahead of you.
Right. So I was just reading, and I would occasionally buy them, but I wasn't going to the store to follow the storylines. I was just reading random books. In 91, it changes to now I'm going every week. Now I'm following specific comics. Now I'm following specific stories as opposed to just random back issues I was buying.
So did you have to go back in time to read the Giffen DeMatteis Justice League? Because that was during my time.
If you go back to watch the old video show, we talked about our first comics, and I talked about those. I bought issues 4 and 5. Or was it 5 and 6? 5 and 6 on a road trip at a 7-Eleven. And I read those two for over and over and over again until I started.
Did that include the Punch?
That was the Punch. Yeah, it was
Right.
that was the cover. The cover was Holding Guy Back was the first one. And then I bought they had the next one, and I bought that next one.
That's a great cover.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a great cover retro-y. That's just a great cover. It sticks with you.
As I got older and had allowance money or odd job money, then I would start going and filling in the run on those. But also, 91.
Wait. You were a Bond villain for hire? You got odd job money?
Odd job money, yeah. I threw my bowler at people.
Sure.
I remember specifically because when we had to pull this, you had to put the titles you wanted to collect in. I had the Justice League books on there. So going forward is 91 is whenever I started reading those month to month. But then I would go, as I could, fill in the back issues from their store. So it goes 80 to 91 is Golden Age. 91, and I'm going to go until 2000 for my Silver Age. So that's when I have now comics is a thing that I'm actively doing, where before it was a passive hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's an active. I'm going to the store every week, and I have 91. I start reading comics weekly. I haven't stopped.
I know you have one comic book friend. Did you have other comics? Did you have?
Oh yeah, everyone I was friends with in elementary school, junior high school read comics.
Okay,
to some extent. Watched G.I. Joe, read comics, read Mad, read Cracked.
Right.
We all were into the same stuff. Watched Star Trek.
I have to add one little thing. I was thinking about it. Now, when I said the image boom, you said that's 93. In my mind,
92.
The image boom really starts with X-Men 1 and Spider-Man 1.
That's 91, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So that's when I was out because I just missed that. But to me, that's what sets up Image, is that these guys sell 3 million copies a piece and they go, well, what the fuck? So that is the beginning of it to me.
God, I remember being on vacation when X-Men #1 came out and having to... Actually, my friend Patrick, who we had to pull us with, he was with us. And we were having to beg my mom to drive us around to find a comic store because we had to get it.
So you just randomly drove around to find a comic store?
Yeah. There was no internet back then. It was like we had to look in the phone book.
Phone book? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So it goes 80 to 91, 91 to 2000. 2000 is the year. Go to San Diego Comic-Con. Well, I went 2001 is the year I went to San Diego Comic-Con. You had gone in 2000. Suddenly, I mean, at that point, I'd been reading Sin City. I'd been reading some other books, Hellboy. But that's where my world sort of opened up into Powers and Planetary and Preacher. Books that weren't superheroes, books that weren't... And I'd, again, been reading some of those. But really, that's when the whole sort of possibility opened up to me. And then we started iFanboy the next year. So like it goes passively reading comics, actively reading comics, and then sort of seeing the wider world of comics and then starting iFanboys because of it was my 3 eras of comic reading.
Yeah.
And I could break down further beyond that, but really it's sort of an emotional thing. That's how I look at it.
I could say that the preamble to my Silver Age, if I start Silver Age at when I discover Hellblazer at Golden Apple Comics in Los Angeles, that went, oh, what's this Vertigo thing? And that was a big deal to me. So all the other little stuff was leading up to that. I remember I was reading, Grant Morrison's Justice League and Jeff Johns' Flash, or maybe it was Mark Miller, like that kind of stuff was in there. But like finding Hellblazer, finding all all that stuff, that was really a jump-starty time.
I mean, you came back from Comic-Con in 2000. You were like, here's a list of books you need to read.
Yeah, that was a transformational moment.
I guess it was going to panels. I don't know how you found them all, but you were like, go find Powers, go find Planetary. Like you had all these books that were coming out at the time. So you add that to the fact that I remember distinctly in 2000 reading Preacher. My coworker had all the volumes, and I borrowed them, and that was a seminal moment. Yeah. Even though again, I'd read From Hell, I'd read lots of books that weren't superheroes, but it was all happening at the same time, and we were all out of college. We were 22. The world was sort of in front of us, and the comics world opened up in front of us. There was a lot happening, and that's where everything sort of changed.
We had quote-unquote disposable income.
God, how did I have disposable income?
I was poor as shit, but I didn't know it. I was like,
Great question,
comics.
Aaron B.
Yeah.
Great question.
I hope that wasn't us just going on too long and you were sort of telling your own story in your head. And, feel free, come to the Discord, go to the Facebook group.
Or go to Instagram and put your story in.
Yeah, totally.
I think everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to be interesting,
I agree.
There's no right or wrong answer here. All right, we're going to skip your question, too, because we went on a lot longer than that than I thought we would. Contact at iFanboy.com is how you can write in, like Aaron B. You can get your email in the show. Great email. Love it. We had a lot of great emails this week, so we're going to try to get you all in soon. You can also write in for our Media Explode show. Media Explode, it should go in the subject line, so we know it's for that show. We will also read those. You talked about last week how we do our summer mailbag, we do our year-end mailbag, but occasionally we'll do one or two emails if we're running short on the show, so you never know.
Imagine us running short.
I know. That's happened in a long time. 2 weeks ago, we had our Media Explode show. We reviewed Oppenheimer and did the aforementioned summer mailbag. Josh, our buddy Hank, friend of the show, who the patrons know from the Hangouts, he had to wait 2.5 weeks to see Oppenheimer because all the tickets sell out here. He sat down in the theater in the only true IMAX screen in LA County and at City Walk. And in 3 minutes into the movie, the projector broke. And so
the parking fees for City Walk
terrible.
Back in 2000 were terrible. So
yeah, it's pretty terrible. But the projector broke 3 minutes into the show. And
that's awful. It's awful, but also very funny for us.
It was very funny. He was telling me, he was like, there was no sound. I thought, this is an interesting creative choice he's making. And then it was like, people are talking and there's no sound. And
how soon did you know? Like, was he on the way back to the car? Was it a day later?
Oh, well, I was meeting him that evening, and he texted me, and because my picking him up was going to depend on when he got out of the movie, and he texted me early and said, "Hey, the movie broke. You can pick me up whenever." So, yeah.
So he still hasn't seen it.
No, he's got to wait 2 more weeks. So this coming week, Justice League War World, we're going to have the Animated Brain Trust review that animated film, so you can look forward to that in a few days. And then next week, fingers crossed, Josh will have a Talksplode for you.
Yeah, we're all scheduled. We're booked.
You know what? It may be swapped. The Justice League World and Talksplode, they may swap weeks. You're going to get one of those shows one week and one the other week. So we'll see how it actually ends up going.
All good. It's all fine.
We didn't set that in stone yet.
You can find our entire library of over 1,300 shows and counting at iFanboy.com, wherever podcasts are sold. We should check this at some point and find out we didn't go past 1,400 because they're coming in hot and heavy. That's what I know.
They are.
Follow us at iFanboy.comics. Nope. Follow us at iFanboy.
Whoa.
I just realized what I said, and I was like, that's crazy that my brain did that. Follow us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram to find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out, and sometimes for the best of the week in panels. You can follow us individually at CSGO Patrick on Instagram and at J.A. Flanagan on Instagram.
Yeah, we haven't passed 1,300 yet, so you're safe.
Yeah.
Unless, we don't count the don't misses and the ones, the mid comics that aren't there. But
yeah,
the ones that are on our feed currently, we're not above 1,400 yet. Where are we in the script? All right. If you like the show, consider subscribing to youtube.com/iFanboy. That's where we have posted all of our old video shows, and we are going to be posting this show every week. We have been. We're still doing it. We continue to do it. So that's all there. Like and subscribe. Smash the button. The bell is the thing that happens that does something. I don't know what else happens on YouTube, but the show's there. So check it out. And consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. That helps people find the show, helps people, the algorithm that we all will bow down to the AI algorithm.
I've been calling him Algo lately.
Algo.
Here's what I would like, though. If about 100 times more of you could watch those shows. Maybe you do a script or something.
Right.
So that we can get in some of this land rush before it all crashes.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about our history, and I was like, we're 5 years too early for everything we did.
Yep.
So anyway, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I missed the show last week. I enjoyed listening to it.
I missed you.
And we'll be back next week. I'll still be here. Hopefully Josh doesn't wash away.
I don't think it's going to happen. No, we're fine, please. Where you live will be destroyed far before mine.
Well, things happen. What if it's locusts?
It's fair. Land sharks, that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm Connor.
I'm Josh. Bye.